What's going on, guys? It is Dan Krueger from DK Fitness, and we help people get into amazing shape without having to give up a fun, enjoyable lifestyle, eating the foods they love and going to the restaurants they enjoy. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about something that's actually got a huge impact on whether or not your body is going to be burning fat that you probably have never heard of. So let's get into it. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about something called leptin. Leptin is a hormone that is produced by your body. And we could look at it as sort of like your body's barometer for whether or not it should be burning fat. It really has a huge impact on your metabolic rate. The more leptin you produce, the more your body realizes that there's no reason to be conservative with its metabolism. It can crank up the metabolic rate. It's okay to burn fat. So the million-dollar question is, what promotes leptin production? How can we get that production increased? Because that is going to allow us to burn more fat. So leptin is directly related to your body fat level and your caloric intake. Typically, the more body fat you have, the more leptin is going to be produced, and that's going to signal to your body that there are plenty of energy reserves, i.e. body fat, and that there's no reason to really store any more. Now the problem is that if you have a decent amount of body fat and you've been producing high levels of leptin for a while, your body might be desensitized to it. So it's sort of not interpreting the message correctly that there's enough body fat. It doesn't get the message, and now it just ignores it, more or less. So the question is, how can we resensitize our body to leptin? Step number one is going to be to reduce inflammation. Now this is a huge problem these days because of all the processed foods that are out there. Inflammation is very common among pretty much everybody. A lot of things can cause it. One major change you can make in your life that'll reduce inflammation and help resensitize your body to leptin is to eat an anti-inflammatory diet. That's going to be a diet that's high in things like berries and fruits and vegetables and natural foods that are high in antioxidants, along with one of my new favorite supplements out there, curcumin. It's from the spice turmeric, and it's a natural anti-inflammatory that works incredibly well. It's just a single ingredient. You can buy a generic version at most supplement stores. Ideally, it's going to be combined with black pepper to increase absorption. But in a nutshell, I've managed to personally reduce high levels of inflammation in my arms. I get tendonitis really bad, and it works incredibly well. So clean up the diet, get rid of the processed foods, and increase curcumin. Those are major steps you can take to resensitizing your body to leptin. The next most important thing that you can do to resensitize your body to leptin and start giving your body the signal that it's okay to burn fat again is to exercise. Specifically, doing fasted cardio is going to be very beneficial. Now that doesn't mean you need to get out there and do high intensity interval sprints. Like getting up and getting some activity first thing in the morning doesn't need to be too intense. Before you start to eat is definitely going to help get you more sensitive to leptin. And sleep is actually a big factor in leptin production as well. If you're someone who is chronically undersleeping, that's something you should really work towards improving, because that is going to negatively impact your leptin production. So get enough sleep, get some exercise, reduce inflammation, and reducing your total caloric carbohydrate intake on a regular basis. That doesn't mean you have to go zero carb, but reducing carbs might be a good approach. Now that's something that I try not to give just a blanket statement about, because it's tough to tell a wide audience of people that they all need to reduce their carbohydrate intake. However, chances are if you're eating a standard Western diet, you're probably eating quite a few carbohydrates. So think about removing some of the starchier stuff like breads and pastas if you can, and at least swapping those out with slower digestive things like oatmeals and sweet potatoes and things like that. Make sure that your carbohydrate intake is reasonable. Definitely shoot me a message if you want some feedback on what a reasonable caloric intake or a reasonable carbohydrate intake would be based on your lifestyle and your goals. I can help you out with that. But chances are, if you eat like the average American, you're probably eating quite a few carbs. And the main one I want to get to in this video is cheat meals. Now, I know what you're thinking. You hear cheat meal, you think pasta, you think donuts, you think candy, you think whatever, all that traditional, like stereotypical junk food. That is not what we're talking about here. When I say cheat meals, I really mean a high carbohydrate day of eating if you're in a dieting phase. A lot of the time, if you have been dieting for a while, you've been on a reduced calorie intake, and that in and of itself over a long period of time is going to decrease your leptin production. So introducing periodic high carbohydrate days is going to be beneficial. That's going to remind your body that there's plenty of food around and there's no reason to be conservative. Now, that doesn't mean go and eat a bunch of carbs that are high in sugar. We want to keep to the clean stuff. So a good high carbohydrate day would be something where you add in extra sweet potatoes, extra oatmeal, extra quinoa, fruits, things like that. Healthy food. Don't go out and just cheat and get a bunch of crappy calories, because you're probably going to store the cheap stuff as fat. If it's a fast digesting carbohydrate, you're not going to use that effectively. But if you've been dieting aggressively for some time, your results are starting to slow, you're starting to feel kind of sluggish, for both a mental break and for a physical break to help promote leptin production again, introducing a high carbohydrate day is probably going to do wonders for your progress. You're going to see a spike up in your weight from the water retention that is inevitable when you increase carbohydrate intake. But after that little spike of water weight goes away, you're going to see that your progress will most likely continue on the path you were on before you hit that little plateau. Now, there's no general rule for this. Typically, the leaner you get and the farther into a dieting phase you get, the more frequent these types of days are going to become. But it's safe to say the leaner you get and the more you progress, you're going to hit plateaus, and this is a huge tool in your toolbox for breaking through those. The key is to do it in a controlled way. You don't want to go into a major caloric surplus here. You basically want to come from a caloric deficit up to your maintenance calories. I can definitely help you guys figure out what those are. That's what I do. So feel free to reach out to me if you want some guidance on this. We can help work you through it in a strategic and controlled way so that you can enjoy all your delicious carbohydrates and still get the results that you're looking for. So I hope this little video was helpful for you today. If you've been struggling with plateaus and you're wondering what the heck's going on because you've been killing it on the diet and you've been working out like crazy and you're wondering why isn't this working, this might be it. Definitely reach out to me if you have more questions. You can reach me at dkrueger@dkruegerfit.com. Cruise on by dkruegerfit.com and check out the content we've got there. We've got packages and coaching available. If you want to really get into the nitty-gritty and start making progress today, we will walk you through it step by step and get you the results quicker than you thought possible. This is Dan Krueger with DK Fitness, and I will see you in the next video.